We've played with Suilend. We know what we're doing. We've tried different strategies, potentially looping our capital, otherwise just borrowing USDC or doing whatever it is that we wanted to do. There's a couple more things I just need to update you on, and then we're good to jump into the next step. So as per normal, we're at the official website, suilend.fi. I point that out because you need to be very, very mindful of fake links out there. We've deposited our SUI here. We've borrowed some USDC, and we're all good. There's a couple of things that I didn't mention early on, just so I didn't overwhelm you with information. But when we actually go and deposit our SUI initially, you can see there's some information here, such as a borrow fee. Now, if we're depositing, we don't have to worry about that. If we get liquidated as well, there is a penalty. Personally, I really recommend that you stay away from liquidation. Otherwise, you're going to have a liquidation penalty. And in addition, you're also going to have a protocol liquidation fee. This next tab is rates. So the rate can increase, and it will increase as more of the SUI is actually utilized. So if the vast majority of SUI is actually utilized, then you're going to be paid a very decent return. However, that's kind of unlikely to happen, to be perfectly truthful. Now, if we go and click on USDC, change it to borrow or whatever, we can see also here, if more of the USDC is utilized, I'll show you what that means exactly in a second, then we'll have to pay significantly more when it comes to the borrow rate. And if we click on advanced, we can also see that there is a borrow fee here of 0.2%. So if we borrow USDC, just to open that position, we're going to be paying that. So you need to be mindful that when you borrow, you are actually paying that. You probably don't want to just borrow, close, because then you're just wasting fees. Liquidation, same deal here. There is a decent amount of rewards. So how Suilend actually makes money is there is an amount that they pay you. If we have a look here, they're paying us with our SUI 4.41%. Well, in particular, they're paying 2.02%. And if you borrow SUI, you're paying 7.72%. So there is that 5% difference there. However, they're offsetting this hugely by giving you SUI right now. And it's so considerable right now that if you wanted to go and say deposit some SOL and borrow some SUI, that would probably be a worthwhile game. But it's not the purpose of the video. I just want to make you aware that it does cost to actually open a borrow. The next thing I want to mention is BW. I covered this briefly a couple of videos ago, but essentially this number one here, this is normal. One is the normal weighted borrow. This means that we've borrowed literally 1,585. It's essentially the USDC that we borrowed times one. That is fine. If you wanted to go and borrow, say, Send or Deep or NS, all these meme coins, this has a far higher weighted borrow of 2. So if we went down here and we borrowed $1,000 worth of Send, that would actually show here as a weighted borrow of $2,000. Therefore, we need more collateral and we can't borrow as much. This is because this token is brand new. It's far more volatile. It could lose a lot of its value very, very quickly. And so they need more collateral essentially to take care of that in case it does go down in price. If we wanted to borrow Send right now, we cannot because this is what's called an isolated asset. Here we could come and click on USDT and we could go and borrow 1,400 USDT if we wanted to. We can see that transaction would go through. And that's because you can deposit SUI or SUI and then go and borrow any of these assets. You could borrow SOL if you wanted to borrow SOL. And in fact, you can see that if you actually go and borrow SOL right now, you are being paid to borrow. When you've got this bracket like this literally means that it's negative, but it's negative for the dApp. In other words, you're not paying them, they're paying you. They're paying you in SUI. So anyone from Solana may consider actually having a decent bag of SUI, depositing it, then borrowing Solana, and then bridging it back if you want to Solana, staking it, doing whatever you want, and then bridging it back in the future to pay down your debt. Of course, it's not financial advice, just something that you can consider if you want to get these rewards. Now, if I want to go borrow some Send, Deep, NS, or some meme coins, then I have to pay back this USDC. I'm borrowing $1,585 worth of USDC, and I have plenty of USDC here to cover that. But let's just assume that we didn't because we'd been doing the looping strategy from the previous tutorial. So very, very quickly, just so I can illustrate this, I'm going to go and take some of this USDC at swap, and I'm going to go and swap it. I'm going to swap it into Send. $1,000 like that, swap. It'll all become apparent very, very shortly. We'll approve that, come back to the dashboard, and now I want to go and repay this USDC. Click on repay up here. This is my balance. I'm still going to owe some, so we'll repay that and approve. And now we've got lots of SUI sitting in there as a deposit, and we've got this borrow here. If we jump into our wallet, let's pretend that we don't have these assets that we could convert to USDC, because maybe we're doing that looping strategy, in which case we would click on SUI and then we'd click withdraw. I have this amount actually deposited, so let's click max. This will withdraw as much as it is safe, but I personally don't like to get too close because I'm then very, very close to my utilization, which means if the price just dips down a little bit, I would be liquidated. So I could go ahead and I could withdraw less. If I'm withdrawing 500 SUI, that's completely fine, but you can see that I only need to repay like $760. So let's try and withdraw an amount that's roughly $760. I think something like that would be fine. We would withdraw the SUI, we would approve the transaction, and then we'd go back to swap. And we know how much we need. We need $760.15. I like to have a little bit more. So let's go with like 168. It gives us a little bit too much. That's not enough, but that is enough. Then we would swap the SUI for our USDC because we're unwinding this position. Hopefully we'd be in profit. We'd approve that. We'd come back to the dashboard, and then we can go click on this, click on repay, and repay all of that like so, and approve. I did actually have a little bit of extra USDC, but that's fine. Now we've paid that off. Now we can go and we can borrow some send. Borrow, click on max if you like, but I really don't like the idea of getting anywhere near my liquidation threshold. So I'll do 200. It will cost me to actually go and borrow, remember? And the borrow fee on this is higher. It's at 1%. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to do a little bit less, a lot less. Send and approve the transaction. And now you can see my borrow was around $30 worth, but my weighted borrow is double that. So that's why if you're borrowing something that is 2 or higher than 1, you need to be mindful because you could get liquidated on it far easier than just borrowing USDC. Now, generally, when you have questions such as what is BW, you should be able to find that in the docs, in which case you come down to the bottom and you check in the docs. However, it's not actually currently in the docs. Now, the final thing we'll cover are points, rewards. So down here, we have our claimable rewards. I have already done that though. And we've got some points. These points will convert to the Send token at the end of season 2. And then maybe they're going to have a season 3, season 4, etc. I'm unsure. I haven't looked into that. You can find all that information out sometimes just by jumping into Discord, asking the right questions. This is my rank in terms of wallets. I'm pretty low, but we can click on Leaderboard. Here you can track which wallets are doing very, very well, because some of these wallets might be doing other things in the ecosystem as a bit of a whale, in which case you can copy the address like that. You can go to sonar.watch, paste in the portfolio address, and you can see exactly what it is that they're doing. On this particular occasion, they've supplied a whole lot of SUI, they've borrowed a whole lot of USDC and USDT, they're getting decent rewards, they have a pretty healthy ratio here. Very healthy, actually. 36 million supplied and 9 million actually borrowed. Then what are they doing? I have no idea. Maybe they converted to SUI, and then maybe they're doing the looping strategy as well. My point here is the airdrop's already been. The first airdrop has already been. It's done. That's fine. However, if this is like Camino, there could be another airdrop, and they reward you by using the actual application. I personally don't airdrop farm. I like to use dApps that I like. And then quite often you just get rewarded by using good dApps. If you're going to try and airdrop farm this, I don't think it's going to work out for you perfectly. If you're trying the looping strategy and SUI price goes up, then you're probably going to have some appreciation that way, and then you'll get a little bit of an airdrop as well. If you were an early user, or maybe if you've been on SUI a little bit, you can go to send, and you can see the token generation event here. There may be some things that you're actually eligible for. That's all to cover the dApp Suilend. Any questions, put them below, and we can always do another tutorial video to answer those. I'll catch you in the next tutorial video.